Hey guys, Smooth here. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to show you something that I figured out. It caused me a headache and whatnot because I was really looking forward to playing this game, Watch Dogs Legion, and I got it for free with my 3080, and I have a huge problem with this. And It seems like since I've been searching through the web over the last couple of hours and yesterday as well, I'm not the only one. Now, there has been a patch deployed since the last video I made yesterday, which I did just to showcase the performance, and it was pretty much, in some cases, unplayable because the FPS would just drop randomly all the way down to 30. Sometimes it would go like yesterday I was playing and it was going down like for no apparent reason whatsoever into the 20s and whatnot. Now, I tried to figure out what was causing this. So I tried every single option that I could think of in the settings and whatnot, but it made no difference. So today, Ubisoft actually brought out a new patch. It was like 1.44 gigabytes or something. I downloaded it immediately, tried it out, and at first I thought, this is running a bit smoother, but not really. And I'm gonna show you what I mean by now. By just looking at I'm gonna go through my settings first. So I'm using DirectX 11 just to make you see what I'm seeing, right? Pretty much DirectX 11, everything maxed out. I'm playing at 4K on my RTX 3080, 4K, no VSync obviously. Like standard, everything is standard here. The quality settings, everything is maxed out completely, right? For cars, right? I'm not using motion blur because I hate it. Got bloom on, everything on, subsurface scattering on high. And I'm using DLSS quality settings, right? I'm not using the extra details because the extra details, to me personally, they don't seem like a big deal. It doesn't matter too much because you can barely see them anyway, right? But I mean, even if I max these out, there's not going to be a huge difference, that big of a difference, except in certain cases. There will be some frame drops, but this used to be the case in older Watch Dogs titles as well. So doesn't really matter. Everything is the sharpness and whatnot doesn't affect the performance anyway. So I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna tap out into the game. I'm gonna show you, right? So right now, I have 65 FPS, and as you can see, none of the cores are maxed out on my CPU. None of them are, right? However, there's already one thing happening, and as you can see in the top left corner, my GPU is never being fully utilized, ever, right? And this is a thing that you will see in DirectX 12 as well, even more so in certain cases. So as you can see, this is obviously there's no ray tracing here, right? It still looks really good. It's a good looking game for an open world game, that is, of course, with a massive city and whatnot. Everything works totally fine, right? I can drive around in a car. And the performance, hold on, let me turn this off. Okay, so if I drive around in a car like that, doesn't even matter, it will still hold around 60 FPS, except in rare circumstances it will sometimes drop below, like here, right? If you go, the faster you go, for some reason, I don't know why, your frames will go down as well. And this is, I mean, this has always been the case in Watch Dogs. I never understood it. It has something to do with how the engine works, I guess. So the streaming process doesn't seem to work properly or whatnot. But as you can see, I'm maintaining over 60 FPS for the most part, and it's totally playable, right? No lags and whatnot, nothing. And everything is maxed out, okay? Now, I'm gonna switch over to, oh yeah, by the way, I can show you something here. If I go down, and I go down the video quality, I'm gonna drop it. You will see that there won't be more FPS, right? I'm gonna show you in a second. Okay, so basically, if I go down and I switch my resolution down to 1440p. Okay, so I go here, right? You will have more FPS, as you would expect, of course, right? But you see my CPU utilization is still not, like, it's going down, right? So I have more FPS, but it's going in the 80s now, and the 70s even. But none of my CPU cores are maxed out completely. So I don't have a CPU bottleneck, as you can see. Yet my GPU performance is all over the place. But it doesn't matter, as you can see, because I'm still maintaining like way over 90 FPS now, because I'm in 1440p, of course, right? So let me switch over to DirectX 12, and I'm going to show you something very interesting. Okay, so we're back, and now I switched to DirectX 12. Everything else stays exactly the same, right? Same thing, still no ray tracing, right? Still on quality. I'm still on 1440p, right? Just as I was before. And remember, I had like maybe like 90 to 85-ish% GPU usage before, right? And I still didn't have any bottlenecks on my CPU. Now, if I go back, as you can see, now it's in the 80s, sometimes even in the 70s, right? So and my frame rate, for some reason, stays exactly the same. Like, there's no difference here. However, sometimes it goes a little bit lower, and you will see if I get into a car. Let me actually get here. Get rid of the music again. Okay, so if I drive around, look at the frame drops. Like, look at the FPS go, like, way lower than 60 FPS. Like, it goes down to 59, 52. So remember, this did not happen. And by the way, my CPU utilization went down to like all the way to the 60s for no apparent reason whatsoever. I mean, I'm clearly not bottlenecked by my CPU here, right? But for some reason, I can't even maintain 60 FPS in 1440p anymore, even though I didn't change any of my settings. I did change nothing whatsoever. And it gets worse if you activate ray tracing, right? If I go ahead, get out of the car, totally fine again, right? But still in the 60s now, and it's like 68% CPU, 67% CPU, GPU usage. And I don't know why. And so far, no one has apparently figured it out, and I really don't know. So let me show you something, right? If I activate ray tracing here, and I go all the way to ultra, and I hit apply, my FPS don't really change that much, right? There's like some stuttering every now and then, and my GPU utilization goes up, but you see it's still not all the way up, right? I'm just standing here, I'm not doing anything, and I'm running only at like 50-ish FPS. Meanwhile, my GPU is half asleep, and I don't have a CPU bottleneck. So there's like clearly something is up with the engine, or I don't know what exactly it is. And let me show you something that's even more interesting. If I go all the way up, back again, right, while having ray tracing on, everything maxed out, right? If I hit play to, I go to 4K, and I go back into the game, right? Look at this. It goes all the way down to 10 FPS for no reason whatsoever. Right? If I go now ahead, go to quality, and I turn it off again. And this is where my my mic completely broke off, and I was using Nvidia broadcast as well. So while recording this, of course, and trust me, it's not because of Nvidia broadcast. Something else is going on here. Now, as you can see, my FPS, they drop like extremely low right now, and as you can see in a second, you might hear my voice a little bit as well if I switch to the settings right now. Like with the same settings, remember, right? I'm not running any weird settings here, right? I'm still running everything maxed out like before. I don't have ray tracing on anymore. Yeah, and once again, my voice is completely gone now. You can't hear me anymore. It doesn't matter what I do. So I'm going back into the options and I'm going to show you that I have nothing changed. Like everything is still the same, and it won't even matter if I completely turn off ray tracing now. My GPU is still going to be completely maxed out now all of a sudden, right? Meanwhile, I'm getting almost no, like 0 FPS, barely like 10 or something like that. It's like unplayable. And this can be reproduced every single time, right? So for some reason, sometimes when I join and I join into the game, it does this. Like the FPS drop extremely, and sometimes it doesn't. So to me, that's clearly a problem with the engine and with DirectX 12. And it's got nothing to do with my computer or anyone else's computer. No matter what you change, you can turn the shadows off. Like from this point on, right? No matter what you do, it's gonna completely lag. It's gonna completely like even if I sometimes I've even had cases where I turned off everything. I turned everything back on. I went back to 4K and it ran again. And I'm still having all these like extreme dips into the 50s and 40s, sometimes the 30s. Like it really depends on where you go to, right? But for the most part, like if you start playing and you are already on 4K, you're maintaining around 60 FPS. But for some reason, at some point, like sometimes if you go into a bar and you get out of the bar and then all of a sudden you're lagging like crazy, you have to restart the whole game, right? Sometimes you're just driving around. That's like the biggest issue, especially under DirectX 12. You're driving around and you can't do anything. Like you're pretty much getting like less than 50 FPS, right? Like, and then it goes down to the 40s, and then it goes down to the 30s, and all of a sudden you're like in the 10s. And it doesn't matter whether or not you play at 4K under DirectX 12. It doesn't matter whether or not you play in a 4K, 1440p. So I thought, okay, maybe it's a VRAM issue, right? As we know, the RTX 3080 comes with only 10 gigabytes of VRAM. So I thought, oh, well, maybe all these, HD textures and whatnot, but it's clearly not that either. So yeah. Hopefully, we can find a fix for this problem, and I hope that Ubisoft will fix it, because, yeah, I mean, it's really annoying, and I was really looking forward to playing this game in its full glory with, everything turned up, and it is possible at times, but for the most part, all these extreme frame drops are making it impossible to really enjoy the game, unfortunately. All right, guys, take care.